Review videos like this aren't exactly something I do on the regular, so don't expect anything fancy here. But I did promise you guys that I would review Sonic Origins after it dropped, and so this is me making good on that promise. Even though the game has been out for more than a month now, which makes this video ridiculously late, but you know what, screw it, we're doing it anyway. As has just been said, Sonic Origins has been out for more than a month now, so people have had a good amount of time to make their own opinions on it. Some positive, others not so much, depends on who you ask. For me personally, Sonic Origins strongly resonates with me because in a way, Sonic's beginnings are also my own beginnings, as Sonic 1 on the Sega Genesis would be the very game that would start my career as an avid enjoyer of video games. And so when Origin was announced in last year's Sonic Central alongside Sonic Colors Ultimate, it was only natural that I would be eager to see just how good a job Sega does of presenting the classic games to a newer generation. Did they accomplish that goal, or could they have done better? I hope to answer that question in my review of Sonic Origins. Chances are you already know what Sonic Origins is, but if you don't, here's a recap. It brings all four of the legendary Sega Genesis titles chronicling Sonic's rise to fame back to the forefront while updating them for the current generation and throwing in some new twists that some might find sufficient and others not so much. It really depends on who you ask. The games themselves are exactly as you remember them, for the most part, and I stress for the most part for a good reason, but I'll elaborate more on this later. So if you enjoyed these games then, you'll certainly enjoy them now. No worries about that. Lives are gone now, unless you play the games in classic mode, in which case you also get to enjoy a variety of wallpapers, but I don't think people will really care for that. And we have coins instead. Yes, we officially have coins in a Sonic game. Okay Mario, we get it, you'd won the console war years ago. Now can you stop trying to push your form of currency into Sonic games? Wait a minute. I just realized something here. Sonic's name is a respelling of coins. Like, look, if you rearrange the letters in his name, you get coins. Coins. I think I've been living a lie my whole life. But seriously, as a replacement of a life system, we now have a coin system that enables you to unlock rewards. And a little pro tip here, play through Boss Rush and the missions mode frequently, and you will harvest coins quickly. Thank me later. Oh, and I have good news. If you like the drop dash in Sonic Mania, it's back now. You can use it in all 4 games. Really sick! In Sonic CD and 3, it works great, but in 1 and 2, it feels slightly hampered, but it still gets the job done. I go into greater detail on this in my video about the drop dash showing up in Sonic Frontiers. If you haven't checked that out yet, could I maybe ask you to look it up? You might like it. And when playing Sonic CD, I was caught completely unawares by the unexpected return of the lyrics to the Japanese theme song, You Can Do Anything, which were omitted in the 2011 re-release. I was madly curious to see how much of a glove CD would get in Origins, and for me, this is already a big step up the ladder, baby. I finally get to hear Toot Toot Sonic Warrior in an official release again. Yes, that is an actual line in a Sonic theme song. I'm not going to go into extensive detail on these 4 games here because if you played them before, you'll know what to expect from them. Storyline wise, gameplay wise, everything. Why bother repeating something that you already know? However, as Sonic Origins marks the first occasion where Sonic 3 and Knuckles, considered to be the novel classic Sonic title, would finally get an HD widescreen re-release, I have a lot of things to say about it. Ever since it was announced that Sonic 3 would be re-released again after 11 years, people had a lot of expectations over Origins. Some walked away feeling satisfied, others walked away feeling let down. Let me try to explain. When it comes to Sonic 3, I've definitely got to start with the one thing sitting cleanly at the top of people's list of complaints about it, or near the top anyway. And that is the music. More specifically, the remixing of the prototype tracks that would be featured in Origins, alongside a handful of newer compositions. Now, I'd already known to expect the prototype tracks in some way, because if Sonic 3 was going to come back at all, some sacrifices had to be made, so I was ready for that. what I wasn't ready for was the manner in which these tracks would be remixed. So when the Carnival Night soundtrack came on, I cringed. And I usually hate using the word cringe, but I can't think of a term more accurate than this one right now. It was so disappointing. Had they just used a prototype track of Carnival Night from 1993, I would have been fine with it. It wouldn't have been my favorite piece of music in the world, but even that sounds much better than whatever this is. Like, seriously, what did you guys do? Ouch! But man, it only gets worse. Transform into Super or Hypersonic, and you're gonna want to rip your eardrums out. On one hand, I like how they tried to differentiate the Super theme from the Invincibility theme, as that was what was initially used in the 1994 release. But it's just the way the instrumentation was done for the Super theme that makes me absolutely not stand it. It reminds me of Sonic 4's Super theme, actually, and not in a good way. And I'm absolutely not a Sonic 4 hater, just to get that out there, but yeah, the Super theme was definitely one of the weaker points of its soundtrack. On the flip side, the prototype music for Ice Cap seems to have escaped these changes largely unscathed. You might think I'm odd for this, but I actually always liked the prototype music for Ice Cap. I think it's really good. The launch-based theme, I'm mostly neutral on, but I think the Origins changes make it sound much worse than it did in 1993. That's all I'm going to say. And then there's the ending music that you hear after getting the Master Emerald back from Eggman when you finish the Doomsday Zone. I have no idea what to think of this, so similar to the launch-based zone, I'm going to adopt a neutral stance on this one. If I absolutely had to pick a side though, I would tell you I don't like it. Remember how I explained to you guys earlier that for the most part, these games are how you remember them? This is primarily what I was referring to. In the case of Sonic 3, the tracks contributed by celebrity figures of the early 1990s, Michael Jackson, Brad Buxer, and others, eventually created a legal barrier that prevented the game from being re-released in any form for the past 11 years. My guess is that after Jackson's untimely passing, ownership of his estate was transferred to his family, and around the time that happened, things started to bubble to the surface. Plus, to come to a compromise, these tracks had to be omitted so that Origins could even happen. So before anybody keeps saying it, no, those tracks are not coming back. That said, right now I'm fiercely on the team of the original Sonic 3 music tracks, because these replacements, apart from Ice Cap, ain't cutting it for me, sir. Fortunately, the rest of the music was just fine. I'm glad I got this part out of the way quickly, because I know the music in Origins is a particularly divisive subject in the community. You'll either think I'm the GOAT for saying what I said, or you'll think I'm stupid. That's entirely up to you. But yeah, let's move on to other things. Unfortunately, the Origins version of Sonic 3 bears the scars of an unfinished game. For one, something went amiss with the audio mixing in Sonic 3. I always get the feeling that I'm playing the game underwater. Like, listen very carefully to it, you'll notice that it sounds slightly muted. Then go play Sonic 3 on either your Genesis or your PC if you got Sonic 3 Air, and then make a comparison. You'll understand what I mean then. Parts of the gameplay itself are not completely polished either. I point out this glitch already in another video, but when playing through Marble Guard at 1 for example, when you trigger an earthquake effect by attacking the driller near the start of At 1, the debris will not stop falling until you actually activate a switch in the ground. More specifically, one of the blue circular switches that raises a staircase. There's also the Whitewater glitch that Blue Vivacity talked about on Twitter, and apparently some things were done with the collision that have caused Sonic to die in places where he normally wouldn't. This clip right here in Velcomia shows Sonic dying by being crushed from a spike bed while barely just sliding underneath it atop his conveyor belt in the Death Egg Zone. Part of why that might be the case is because this version of Sonic 3 was built from the ground up, rather than being simply ported like all of its previous releases leading up to its Steam re-release in 2011. So that might have caused some changes in things like the physics and collision regions of the game, and for that matter you might see similar changes in 1, 2, and CD also. Actually, Origins as a whole seems to have either introduced new glitches or brought old ones back to the surface. Old ones from either the Genesis version or the 2013 re-releases for mobile devices. Either way, there's definitely some weird stuff going on. When playing as both Sonic and Tails, there have been times when the Tails AI exhibited weird behavior. Like on one occasion, he randomly turned to the dark side and sold me out to Eggman during the boss fight in Ice Cap Act 2. How could you, Tails? And to think I thought about standing up for you in the Sonic 2 opening cutscene from Origins, but you know what? Not anymore. You can fight your own battles from now on. Parts of it might be my own fault, as I might not be entirely accustomed to how the AI is controlling here, but there have been instances where what happened made me scratch my head because I couldn't quite make sense of it. And while we're on this subject, I just learned something today. If you have the electric shield equipped and you're holding up while trying to get Tails to go into a flight mode so he can carry you, the double jump property from the electric shield will not activate. When you stop holding up, however, it works as normal. So I guess the game turns it off if it realizes you're trying to get Tails to carry you, but I don't know if it's really a benefit because I would think the double jump actually helps you catch Tails, as there are times where he will randomly fly too far out of range for you to be able to grab him. I can't tell if it's intentional or not. What do you think? And it might just be my imagination here, but it feels like it's become a lot easier to fall to your death during the chase segment at the end of the Death Egg boss, as in like the final boss that comes before the actual final boss, the one just before the Doomsday Zone, when you're chasing Eggman trying to get the Master Emerald back. Usually I could just run to the right after hitting him, and I'll be just fine. But now it feels like I have to run right and keep jumping, so that I don't fall off screen. This wasn't normally the case for Sonic 3 on the Genesis or Sonic 3 Air, so might there have been another change here? Unintentional or otherwise? That was some of the weird stuff I'd encountered during my playtime of Sonic 3 Origins, but here's the silver lining. Contrary to what most will tell you, many of these glitches won't outright harm your experience of the game, not in the slightest. They're more funny occurrences than anything. Now, I'm not disputing whether or not these glitches need to be removed, because yes, they do need to go, especially the whitewater glitch that you'll randomly come across in Angel Island Act 2 when you use the electric shield when you're just about to enter a body of water. It's not quite the same thing as the seizure glitches that dominated the Switch version of Color's Ultimate at first, but it sure brought back some memories similar to that, and I really hope we don't get to that point again, otherwise I'm gonna be sad. From what I understand, the unfinished state of Sonic 3 Origins, or Origins as a whole, can be attributed to Sega's decision to rush the game out the door rather than delaying it so as to allow Sonic Team, and by extension Headcanon, more time to further polish the product. Sega, I thought you were over this by now, what's going on? If y'all didn't know, the very same headcanon involved in the making of Sonic Mania was tasked by Sega with remastering Sonic 3 in preparation for Origins. Given the circumstances, I sincerely believe headcanon did a fantastic job in remastering Sonic 3. I really do believe this. I've always been at ease whenever headcanon was involved in anything Sonic related, and I certainly wasn't disappointed here. Yes, we can all agree it's not quite where it should be right now, but headcanon has volunteered to return for fixes should there ever be a need for it, and I hope Sega makes this arrangement. As a side note, a member of the headcanon team published a Twitter thread detailing their own thoughts on the state of Sonic Origins. I'm not going to elaborate on it here, but I will say this. It explains much about why Origins released in the state it was released in. I'll link it in the description below in case you would like to check it out. But unfinished or not, I enjoyed my time I spent playing Sonic 3 and all the other games in Origins, and even now I'm still doing repeat playthroughs. So that covers Sonic 3. As for the other games, I've got no complaints, apart from the fact that they did bring back unpleasant memories of stages I struggled badly in. For example, the Metropolis Zone in Sonic 2. I can finish it today, but it always annoys the living heck out of me. As for the Wing Fortress Zone, I quickly remembered why whenever I go into the boss fight, I always pack Supersonic if I can. Without it, I tend to die multiple times before actually beating the boss. Just see my final episode of my Sonic 2 Absolute playthrough as proof of this fact. We discussed the game in Sonic Origins, now it's time to focus on the newer attractions. First of all, the cutscenes. Seriously, if you played Origins already, did you expect me to start anywhere else with this? They are crisp, clean, and fire. Qualities that you can always expect from the work of Tyson Hesse, who did indeed develop the cutscenes in Sonic Origins. I immediately took notice of his art style in the first Origins trailer that dropped back in April, and I was like, oh, Origins is gonna be fire. And yes, it was fire. The cutscenes are gorgeous. They provide further emphasis on each of the storylines for the 4 Sonic games in Sonic Origins, and there's also a special intro sequence that plays at the title screen. In addition, there's a special ending that you can unlock once you've beaten all 4 games, whether separately or in the story mode. Speaking of which, I hate to say this, but the story mode felt like a pointless addition. It just felt like a more limited way of experiencing the classic all at once, because for one, you only get to play as Sonic, so that does make sense as the story of each game does take place from his perspective, never mind the alternate storyline featuring Knuckles in Sonic 3. In addition, once you finish story mode, you can't go back and replay any level that you've experienced. There's like no level select there. The save system there, as such, is a little bit restricted. So, I appreciate the idea of a story mode, but I think it could have been executed better personally. As such, you're better off simply playing the game separately, especially because you'll get to use mirror mode with each of the 4 games, and not in story mode. Seriously, you should try mirror mode. It's a fascinating twist on the classics, much more so than I would have initially suspected. Next, the missions. Those were an interesting experience, I will say that much. Many were a breeze to play through, but there were a select few that gave me pounding migraines, and I never want to tolerate them again for as long as I can help it. I'm still trying to make sense of that balloon bounce mission that makes up the final mission in Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Does anybody else remember that one? No? Huh. Okay then, I guess I'm just imagining things. Silly me. Next, Boss Rush. It's exactly what it sounds like. You go against the bosses from whichever Sonic game you want. There are some catches, however. Most of the time, you'll have no rings. But on occasion, the game will show you mercy and give you 3 rings to start with. For example, against the final boss in Sonic 1. Although that's largely redundant because the primary threat of that boss is being crushed. Yes, there's an attack where electric orbs go flying in your direction, but it's painfully easy to avoid. You shouldn't be concerned by that. This is a particularly pressuring boss rush to play through. You should try it in Sonic 2 and 3 sometime. You might find yourself being pushed to your limits. I said this earlier, but I'll say it here again. Even after you finish both the missions and the boss rush for the first time, they remain convenient methods of helping you farm coins quicker so you can unlock all of the rewards. And speaking of the rewards, it's time to talk about them. These rewards are primarily unlocked in the museum. These are divided into 3 categories: sounds, illustrations, and movies, which are the cutscenes of course. And they're further divided into 2 subcategories: your standard unlockables and premium collections. The number of coins needed to unlock each item varies, and in other cases you'll have to fulfill specific requirements, like beating a certain type of enemy a number of times in a specific Sonic game. For example, beating 10 Rhino bots in the Angel Island zone with Sonic 3 and Knuckles allows you to unlock a specific item in the illustration section. I'll let you figure out which one that is. For those with a keen eye for detail, there's some nice Easter eggs hidden away among these unlockables. You might want to give these a look sometime. There's a slight catch though. Right now, some of the tunes in the sounds menu have been ordered incorrectly. For example, the Knuckles Chaotic soundtrack, many of it is out of place. But Sega is aware of this issue and they're working on a patch to clean up a laundry list of issues, including this one. So sit tight, it shouldn't stay this way forever. And yo, I can't believe it, they actually snuck in all 6 episodes of Sonic Mania Adventures and 3 clips from a Sonic 30th Anniversary Symphony. That is awesome! Finally, as you play through Sonic Origins, you'll notice subtle changes taking place at the world map, like the fact that Angel Island becomes airborne again once you finish Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Also, by using the island viewer, you can zoom in and out of each respective island. If you look hard enough, you might catch some distinguishing features from some of the classic Sonic stages, like the famous loop-de-loop from Green Hill, the pipes from Chemical Plant, and even the Sky Sanctuary floating high above Angel Island. Much of my time spent in Sonic Origins has gone towards replaying the classics or rewatching the cutscenes, even digging through the illustrations and tunes taken from the Sonic series as a whole. I can safely say that I feel that every dollar I spent on Sonic Origins has been worth it, despite that some may feel the game is overpriced for what it does offer, and in some ways I agree and disagree with that. Speaking of which, it's time for me to address the areas that I feel Origins is lacking in, and if these are not addressed soon, interest in it may decline quickly, which I don't want. First of all, it's 2022, and there's still no signs of online multiplayer to be found in a mainline Sonic game. Up to you to consider Origins mainline or not, but the point stands. We didn't get online multiplayer in Sonic Mania, that came out 5 years ago. We didn't get online multiplayer in Sonic Forces, and that also came out 5 years ago. At least, I'm pretty sure Forces doesn't have online of any kind, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. We did get online multiplayer in Team Sonic Racing, but that was a game built around multiplayer, so yeah, I would think that was a given. Unfortunately, content support for it did not last past launch. We still didn't get online multiplayer in Colors Ultimate last year, a true WTF moment. And here we are today, with Sonic Origins, still no online multiplayer to be found. Like, come on Sega, what on earth makes you think that simply giving us leaderboards over and over is going to achieve anything, aside from allowing us to look at the records set by other players, which is nice and all. This ain't enough! What I'd like to do is be able to race my friends across the internet in whichever stage I want, or play co-op with them, like we did in, you know, Sonic 4 Episode 2, which came out 10 years ago, I hasten to add. How is it a 10-year-old game had online co-op, but the more recent Sonic titles don't? Like seriously, what is this? But no, they've just been giving us leaderboards, 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 leaderboards. I am so bored of leaderboards. Seriously, we need to step things up. Do you realize all the potential you're leaving on the table by continuing to neglect an online multiplayer system? That would add so much replay value to these games, which I really want to see. Okay, sorry, I had to get that off my chest. At the very least, the local multiplayer feature for both Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 is still intact, so it's something. But when it comes to multiplayer in the 2020s, we're gonna need something on a larger scale. I will say though, it is nice seeing the multiplayer stage in Sonic 3 in full screen. They look really clean. Now if only they had single player layouts. What could have been. Next up, the missions mode offers some nice insight into what the classic Sonic lineup would look like with fully revamped layouts. You see something akin to this in Sonic Mania's Encore mode update, which came out in 2018. The stages were mostly the same, but they did have some new twists here and there as far as the layouts were concerned, and the backgrounds were completely recolored. The bosses themselves remain unchanged, as did the soundtrack. But imagine if Sega had taken this very concept and ran all the way to the bank with it for Origins. These classic games could have been completely transformed, leading to some amazing results. Of course, they also need to be preserved in their basis form, that was just as important too. But as these games were rebuilt from the ground up rather than simply being ported as they were multiple times beforehand, this could have been an excellent opportunity for Sega to capitalize on in transforming the classics, and sadly they did not do that. However, with the existence of content updates, there's hope for them to do something like this still, but I'm really not sure how hopeful about this you should be. Finally, I want to talk about the characters that are playable, and one character in particular that is not playable, bit of foreshadowing there. Currently, you can choose between Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles in any game except for Sonic CD, where you're limited to only Sonic and Tails. Knuckles is nowhere to be found. This is likely because the Origins version of CD is based on the Taxman re-release from 2011. Knuckles wasn't playable in that either, so I guess it makes sense he wouldn't be playable now. Still, there would have been no harm whatsoever in adding him in so as to make things equal between all games, but at the same time, I don't believe that adding Knuckles would have changed anything for the player, as the ways he can explore each stage would already be covered by Tails. In fact, when Tails himself was added, I don't think the levels were changed in any way to accommodate his abilities, so it likely would be true of Knuckles also. But again, there would have been no harm in adding him in, so I'm a little affronted on behalf of Knuckles fans who wanted to play as him in Sonic CD. And then, there's a pink demon with Thor's hammer. Seriously, what is that thing made of? Can anybody enlighten me? She wasn't playable in the classics initially, so that she isn't playable in Sonic Origins either isn't quite a shocker. And yet, from looking at the cutscenes, I can't help but wonder if Sega did toy with the idea of making her playable in Origins. They have to be aware of a demand for a playable Amy Rose since Sonic Mania came out 5 years ago. Because come on, people were quite vocal about the subject, and they still are. Now, in the Sonic CD cutscenes, it makes sense that she would be prominent in them. But then you look at the special ending for Origins, and you notice how big of a role Amy plays there. And at that point I have to wonder, If they're going to consider her as part of the team, why not give her her time to shine in Origins? Come on, guys, stop teasing us. Like I said earlier, these games were rebuilt. You could totally have made Amy playable. Why didn't you do it? Why? While we're talking about playable characters, where the heck is Metal Sonic? Such an iconic villain, and he isn't playable either? For shame. I guess there really is only one Sonic. There's other things I could bring up here, but this video is approaching half an hour long, which is way longer than I anticipated this review to be, so I think now is a good stopping point. In conclusion, I love Sonic Origins, and I wholeheartedly recommend this game to anybody looking to dive into the Sonic classics or looking to re-experience them. At the same time, however, I cannot deny that performance-wise it is rough around the edges, and it is also somewhat lacking in content which may discourage repeat playthroughs. Hopefully Sega will address both of these problems going forward, especially for the PC version, where players have reported startup issues, frame rate drops, and other things similar to those. Luckily, I've not encountered any of that while playing the Xbox version of Origins. The worst that I ever ran into was some weird stuff related to the gameplay, notably in Sonic 3 Origins, but otherwise, it's been a smooth experience, and I have no complaints. So my advice to you, if you want to get Origins, would be to buy the console version for until Origins as a whole gets patched up. It's not to say the console versions are completely bug-free. Sega did just have to stomp a leaderboard bug for the PlayStation version, but I think you'll stand a better chance of having fun with Origins, as it is right now, on console rather than on PC. I prefer for it to be equal across all platforms, of course, so here's hoping that everything gets smoothed out. I'm not really the type of guy that bothers with review scores or anything like that, but if you were to ask me how I would rate Sonic Origins out of 10, I would give it 7.5, maybe an 8, one or the other. It's a great game to be sure, more can be done with it still, but for now, it is a more than acceptable introduction to the history of classic Sonic. Now bear in mind, as this is a review video, this is entirely my opinion. You're welcome to agree or disagree with it, and in fact, I want to know the extent of your own thoughts on Sonic Origins, so if you don't mind, let me know what those are in the comments down below. And that about does it for this review video of Sonic Origins. Thank you all for listening, and hopefully it helped you to make a decision as to whether or not you should look into Sonic Origins for yourself. If it did, then I'm happy to help. I will see you all next time. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to let me know with your likes and comments down below, and feel free to subscribe and ring that bell for more Sonic content. Sorry this review took some time getting out there, but then, me being late to post about some things is getting pretty typical. I know, I need to clean this up. I'm sorry. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you all in my next video. Till then, peace! Blue blurs for life. Take care.